what we're going to do. Pay attention to the answers that Mecca gives in his interview, guys, because at some point near the end of the show, I'm going to ask a trivia question. And if you were paying attention, you might know the answer. And the first person who gives us the answer will win today. I've got several prizes to give away. They
Nice.
will win that wristband that Alex is wearing that Mecca's
Nice.
got. I've got
Yes,
one.
baby.
Mecca was so kind when I purchased his book, which he autographed for me, by the way, right there in the inside cover. There it is. When I purchased his book, he sent me two of these. So we're gonna give one away tonight. Billy Bob sent us an extra koozie, so Billy Bob's Backyard Barbecue, you'll get one of those, and you will also get an Ohio State pennant.
Wow.
Ooh.
So that's the prize tonight. So make sure you're paying attention to the interview, and we will give that away at the end of the show. All right, Mecca, let's start here. I love this thing, dude. I wasn't sure what to expect when I got it. It is number one, I'm not a, it takes me about a year to read a book. This you can read in one afternoon,
Mhm.
maybe even less. I mean, it is easily digestible. It is to the point. It is highly motivational. I'm going back and reading things now and highlighting them in the book that as I read through it the first time, I thought, ooh, that was really good. And now it's become incredibly um, the timing of this is incredibly meaningful to me right now in the stage of life that I'm in currently in business. This has been awesome.
Awesome.
Where did the idea for this book come from, my brother?
Wow. Well, I'm gonna if you allow me, I'm gonna rewind a little bit too. So,
Do that.
last because I got to give a little context. So, last year I had the song "Buckle Up," which was anthem for the Buckeyes that they ran out to every game. And when I came up with the song, I knew obviously that I felt that it was going to be. Let me not say I knew, but I really felt that it was going to be a special season. I hadn't done a song for the Buckeyes in about a decade, and so, but I got inspired to do it. And I was thinking of themes, like what's a good theme, and I think that I don't remember how it came to me, but buckle up. Obviously have the word buck in it for Buckeye, so it's kind of a double entendre. It came to me, and I felt like, look, I needed to rally the troops because Buckeye fans in a lot of ways were very frustrated and rightfully so, particularly with those losses to the team up north, and us not looking the way we're supposed to look, even against Missouri. Yeah, we have all the excuses, but we don't want to look like that on the national stage. So I felt like it was time to kind of rally the troops, and so buckle up as a theme came to me, and I felt like it would be something that people could rally around. So as the song, kind of grew, we realized that it was going to probably be a big deal. But this is like before the season started. So my team and I decided we were actually going to do a documentary on that season and kind of how Buckle Up kind of integrated into the season and into the community. And I performed it on Fox Big Noon Kickoff Live, which was crazy, and all that type of stuff. So we got all that footage, and then we thought this would be a cool thing to just show for my fans later on, no matter what. But if we go on to win a national championship, oh my God, all this footage is going to be gold. And so we actually did. We went on won the national championship, and so we were able to complete the documentary, and we were able to get some players in it. Lathan Ransom is in it, Denzel Burke is in it, Urban Meyer's in it. I mean, it's awesome. It's called Buckle Up: The Soundtrack of Champions. So check that out on YouTube as well. And along that process, and just for many years, I think people, one of the most common questions I get is how or why did you do this, or what inspired you to do this, or how did you make this work, that type of thing. And so I've always kind of wanted to write a book and kind of put it in a digestible form, like you said, Eric. But yeah, I didn't want to write something that was just so long and drawn out. I wanted to get to the point, right? Because I feel like there are things that I think are tried and true kind of tips, plays, so to speak, that have kind of helped me. And every single part of every single success that I've had and or failure, it's kind of the same things kind of come up over and over again, right? Believing in yourself, overcoming self-doubt, being present, being where the action is, following, what the greats did before you, all those type of things, right? They all kind of become the same thing, or seem to all come back to the same thing. So I was like, let me write it in a book, and And so when we put out the documentary, I decided I was going to put out the documentary and the book at the same time. So yeah, that was the inspiration for it. And man, the response has been amazing. So just really grateful.
Um, Tell everybody where they can purchase the book at, and are you still doing an autograph way to get it autographed? I saw Lisa said that was really neat that you autographed it, and he personalized it, man.
Yeah.
It's to me, so I can't give it away, folks. Sorry, it's my book.
Yeah. So if you're an Amazon user, you can get it. Buckle Up, the Playbook, 5 winning plays for go-getters. That's on Amazon. And if you want an autograph copy, you can get it from my website. That's shop.mekkadonmusic.com. And right now, we're still running a limited promo, Eric, as you mentioned. If you order an autograph copy from my website, shop.mekkadonmusic.com, we'll also send you 2 free Ohio State Juice wristbands. So we're going to run that for probably just a little bit longer. But yeah, those are the 2 ways to get the book.
Beautiful. When we cut this up and do just the interview portion, I will put the link down in the comments section below for everybody so that
Awesome.
you can go get your autographed edition of the book. All right, let's do this super chat from Bobby Mack. Mecca, did you see any excitement? Thank you for the $5 super chat, Bobby. Mecca, did you see any excitement with potential recruits that may flip at the Texas or Grambling games? Any rumors of a Texas recruit flipping to us?
I haven't heard that yet. That doesn't mean that it's not out there. Um, but this is going to be actually a very interesting year because I think that one of the things that, and I've heard this from another recruit right now who's in high school. One of the things about Ohio State is actually starting to separate itself from the pack. We're starting to be looked at, and this person is in California, by the way. We're starting to be looked at as like how Alabama was, right? And if you look around, like Ryan Day is really establishing something here that's special and different. And this is from a development, it's from coaching, it's culture, it's money, right? I mean, like all of the things that you would want in a program at one time, we have. And there are not really that many other programs that are competing with us right now. In fact, I said this the other day, the fallout from, so I was talking to another recruit, a current player's parents, and you may be able to figure it out, but I don't want to say who because I didn't get permission to say it. But I asked them where they would have gone if they didn't come to Ohio State, and this was just last week, and they told me that they would have gone to Alabama, but that when Nick Saban left, they were like, "We're not going to Alabama," and they came to Ohio State, and I just wonder, like, and I said this on Twitter the other day, if there's so much fallout from that Nick Saban retirement um, that's spread across the country, right? I would love for there to be a 30 for 30 eventually on like what did that mean when he left and all the different branches and things that sprouted from that. But I digress a second. But I do think that we are that program now, and so there's going to be a lot. There are going to be more people that are going to want to come here probably than we're going to be able to take. So. To the specific question, I don't know that yet, but I think that's something that we'll be hearing from pretty soon.
Yeah. Before I turn Alex and Christopher loose and let them ask some questions, I do have to throw this up there for you, Tyler. Tyler is our residential "I hate Michigan more than anything in the world" fan. We love you, Tyler. By the way, Eric, Alex, Chris, Mecca, can we give a shout out to Boomer Sooner?
Boomer.
Boomer.
Tyler and I
Sooner.
are the same person then because every day I wake up hating that team more than anything in the world. So I get it.
Yeah, it's so fun. So it's the most frustrating thing for me, if I'm being fully honest, is that I am so excited when they're miserable, right? Like I love when they lose. It's great, but at this point, we still can't really say anything to them yet. We have to go beat them. You know what I mean? Like even if they lose
Yeah.
every single game this year, it doesn't matter until we beat them. That's how I feel now. I haven't always felt that way, but when you lose 4 in a row, and specifically the last year's game where you don't have any excuse, it's like I don't get the enjoyment that I want to be able to get out of it. It was so much more fun when we were beating them and they would lose games like that. Then we could clown them and clown them and clown them. But right now they can just say, "Well, you can't beat us," and we kind of got to shut up. You know.
Yeah, it's frustrating to say the least.
Yeah,
When you want to get online and you want to laugh, but at the same time you already know what the response is going to be. It's going to be
100%.
13-10, four in
Yep.
a row,
Hmm.
1,000 some odd days, whatever they're going to
Yep.
say, right?
That's what we
Since
would do.
yeah, yeah, I mean, yeah,
You,
100%.
you know the
Yeah.
best response to that, Eric,
What's that?
is it's been 28,483 days since Michigan actually won a legitimate outright title.
Well, according to the NCAA though, it's.
What do they know?
Kevin Cowgill just became a member. Thanks, Kevin. We appreciate that, my friend. Thank you for supporting us here at the OHIO podcast. All right. Let's do this. Let me ask one more question, and then Alex and Chris, you guys get your questions ready, and then I'll manage the chat for the rest of the evening. Give me one thing. Now, a lot of you might not know. Mekka went on to become a lawyer. He went on and became a rapper, um, a content creator, a producer of a movie. Now, am I right about that? A documentary,
Yep.
an author. The list goes on and on and on. Give me one thing, or more than one thing, if you like, that Ohio State gave you to prepare you to be able to do all these things that you have successfully done as an adult following your time at Ohio State.
So I would say two. I would say two things. I would say first is kind of what we call the brotherhood, right, and the fraternity, kind of welcoming me into the fraternity. Again, I was a preferred walk on. I only played football 1 year in high school. I was still learning football when I got to Ohio State. I was just a really good athlete, but my teammates and my guys, I came in with Mike Doss. That's my class. Matt Wilhelm, Krenzel. Those are my guys. And then the upperclassmen, those guys never treated me as less than, you know. And there's obvious difference. Everyone knows there's a hierarchy even in practice and stuff like that, but they never treated me as less than. And so I think that welcoming me into that brotherhood, right, just gave me a certain level of confidence as you're moving on in college, but also in life. And those relationships have turned into. I mean, I'm business partners with Chris Carter right now. I'm friends with Eddie George. I know, you know what I mean. I know Archie. I know like all of these things. Again, I'm just a preferred walk on. And so that brotherhood, the extensions of what that brotherhood has done and what that can mean has been exceptional. I think the second thing that really goes underrated when you're talking about Ohio State is the quality of education that I received. And I think that people talk about Ohio State and they think of football and that's all they think of. But Ohio State, first of all, especially now, is a very tough school to get into academically. And I was there actually on academic scholarship as well. And but the quality of education that I received, I ended up getting into to NYU for law school, Columbia, like from Ohio State, and people they think that you have to go to Ivy League schools to get into those schools. You don't. There was a healthy respect that I was getting from national institutions just by virtue of the fact that I had a 3.7 at Ohio State. And so that, and then even the professors, the tentacles that Ohio State has across the nation in business. If you can go to California, you can go to Texas, wherever, any big corporation, and you're going to see Ohio State grads. So it's just being part of that alumni, being part of that kind of brotherhood, as I would say, it's been so beneficial to me in so many different ways.
$5 super chat from SAC 3074. Mekka, you are my all-time favorite Buckeye rapper, but I also love is it Nady Fresh?
Yeah, Nady Fresh.
Song Red, Scarlet, Gray, No One's Better.
I've never heard it, but I'm sure it's a good song. And thank you for that.
Future collab now. Future collab. There you go.
Well, let's be honest. If there's going to be a collab, it's going to be with Biggie Pods over here. Come on, guys. Come on.
Rap battle.
Oh, listen. Mekka, this guy, it's all about AI, okay? Yeah, it ain't real. Trust me about that. Oh, man, that's funny. All right, Alex, go ahead and fire a question away for Mekka this evening.
Yeah, you bring up how recruits are starting to look at us now as the new Alabama.
Mhm.
And one of my biggest gripes is how far behind we seem to be with our facilities and stadium renovations and stuff like that. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah.
And what have you heard about Ohio State's potential improvements in those areas? Because I've heard a story or two about a recruit and his family saying, boy, these facilities are really outdated compared to like the Oregons of the world and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's so crazy what you have to do to compete. And it's year by year. I mean, quarter by quarter, really. And I remember. So I'll give you a couple things. So the Woody, if you guys see the Woody Hayes or remember how the Woody Hayes facility looked back late '90s, early 2000s when we were there versus how it looks now, it's night and day. And in fact, it was really Urban Meyer who changed that. He came in to the Woody Hayes and he said, "There's all this free space that we have here on these walls. I don't want any of it free. We have so much content, from history to current guys in the NFL to championships, trophies, whatever it is, that this should feel like a museum. People should walk through here and be like, "Oh my freaking gosh," before they leave here." And he literally transformed the Woody Hayes as a result of kind of that thinking. And it takes that kind of that next level thinking and understanding to get to that space. But the next thing is money, right? You have to invest. And I actually had a meeting with Ross Bjork, probably the month that he was about to start at Ohio State, and we just talked about a bunch of different things. Gene Smith is one of my mentors, and he actually introduced us, and so it's kind of just talked about a lot of different stuff. But he did tell me that there's a lot of money that's going to be invested into renovating. They understand, and then also some of the game day changes. I was impressed by some of the game day changes that I saw yesterday. It's way more modern, right? I think at Ohio State, we there's a balance between relying on tradition, that very traditional kind of thing, which is cool. And I think that there's ton of value to that. But also understanding that there are new fans, there are new recruits, there's new just energy in the world, right? And there's certain expectations people have, particularly if you're going to be charging people hundreds of dollars, for a ticket to come into a game. Then this better be a show, not just what we see on the field, but we want to see fireworks. We want to hear music. We want to have contests. We want to win free stuff. We want to see ourselves on the screen, all that type of stuff. So I think there's a concerted effort that Ohio State is making. To kind of make those improvements. And then one last thing I will say that's interesting about Ohio State, and it's probably true for every school, but I remember meeting with somebody pretty high up at Ohio State, and this wasn't even Ohio State athletics. And they told me that sometimes they don't even know who the actual decision maker is for certain things that happen at Ohio State because it's so bureaucratic. Is it the board? Is it the donors? Is it the vice chancellor? Like who is it? So sometimes there's confusion with who actually is responsible, who actually has the authority rather to make certain decisions, and sometimes that means that some of the things that we want to see move slower than we probably want to see them. And I guess that happens with big institutions, but at this point you got to compete. The Oregon, they're not going away. You know,
Mm.
those facilities and the Phil Knight, that's only going to get bigger and better. So,
no.
so I think that we're understanding of that, but we got to move. We got to move.
Yeah. Team Up North even has a nicer locker room than we do. And I'm,
Mhm.
being the institution we are and the football program we are, and if we are going to be quote unquote the new Alabama,
Yeah,
we have to be the best of the best.
yeah,
So
I agree.
I definitely like all those points that you made for sure.
Yeah,
Chris.
They got a better locker room, and man, they just got that tremendous tunnel that never causes any problems.
Yeah.
Boy. Boy.
Ain't that the truth?
Golly.
So many hats. You talked about it: lawyer, athlete, rapper, entrepreneur. How how would you say those different hats that you wear really influence your creative process in your professional life?
oh man, so it's such a good question. So I think one of the things for me that I've realized, because a lot of these things seem like they're disconnected or disjointed, right? And in times I've kind of felt like they are. And I think it's probably because that's kind of what society has told me. But then I came to realize that really at the end of the day, my purpose is all the same, which is to do meaningful stuff, to be inspirational, right? So those, and you can do that through law, you can do that through music, you can do that through whatever. So they've all kind of connected. And I think then the other thing is, I draw from all of those experiences. Just even musically, for example, like I grew up listening to everything, like all the white hair bands. I listened to Prince, I listened to Bob Marley, Michael Jackson, obviously all the rappers and hip hop. So my perspective on music is very, very different, and I use all of those elements when I'm actually creating as well. And I think that that's part of what's created kind of a when I'm creating like anthems particularly, you have to understand there's a large cross section and different like demographic of people who are Buckeye fans. So how do you create something that obviously everyone's not going to like it, right? But how do you create something that you know a 2-year-old kid will like, all the way up to a 97-year-old grandmother, and somebody in from east side of Columbus, and somebody in Upper Arlington? How do you create? These are all Buckeye fans, and they all matter equally. So how do you create something that can appeal to everyone? And I think so. I think all of my experiences have allowed me to kind of understand people, right, and understand energy. I really understand like the collective energy of Buckeye Nation. That's why I think Juice was really successful as a song, because I think it tapped into a lot of those different elements, and you didn't necessarily have to love hip hop to like the song per se. And so yeah, so I think all of those things have kind of really helped me just understand people and understand marketing and understand just how to connect with people. So it's been great.
Sean Schrock submits a question for us.
Trying to
Sean,
stir it up.
I
he
hate this question. God.
he interviewed you back on the Buckeye Lounge about a month or so ago. Caleb Downs or Mike Doss? Thanks for coming on tonight and coming on the Buckeye Lounge. You're the best. It's an impossible question to answer.
I saw this question pop up, and I was hoping that you guys would miss it and, not ask me this question, because it's so hard for me to answer. I think, let me say this. I think that, so let me just talk about Mike Doss for a second, if you guys don't mind, because Mike Doss was my class. So when Coach Kennedy was our strength and conditioning coach. And we had 3 rules in the weight room when we were at Ohio State. I don't know if you guys have heard this or not, but we had 3 rules when Coach Kennedy was there. One rule was that you were not allowed to chew gum. The second rule was that you were not allowed to yawn in the weight room. And the third rule was that you were not allowed to talk about high school. He's like, all of you guys are great. All of you guys are all American. All of you are all state, all this, all that in high school. One thing about Mike Doss, the second that he walked in there to Ohio State, you knew he was special. And this is special amongst special guys, right? And Mike was so, in practice, Mike was feared in practice as a freshman. Guys didn't want to come across the middle against Mike. This is his freshman year. I remember, he was a leader. He was just different. He was built different. Mentally, he was different. And he was that guy from day one. And I saw that up close and personal. So that there's a little bias to my answer there, right? Also, when you look at kind of what Mike means to Buckeye Nation, right? What he did coming back, right? Being an Ohio kid, and then coming back and winning the national championship and taking down arguably the greatest dynasty in the history of college football. I mean, Mike is still, he's still at the top, right? But from a talent perspective, Caleb is something that we haven't really seen before. Like that's he is so elite mentally and physically, and the combination of the two, that, I mean, you're talking about, this is a guy that's probably going to go down as an NFL Hall of Famer, right? So I know that's not really an answer, but if from a just a pure talent perspective, I think Caleb is one of one. But for what they mean to Buckeye Nation, I don't think Caleb has passed Mike yet. Now, if we win another national title this year, then the argument gets a little crazier. But I think right now Mike is still atop.
Snoop Dogg or Dr. Dre?
Oh wow!
Let's lighten the mood after
I was
that
about
one.
to answer, and then I slowed down real quick. I'll have to go with Dr. Dre just because
Okay.
he's produced so many talent. I mean, he's produced Snoop, he produced Eminem, he produced 50 Cent, he produced Kendrick Lamar. I mean, he's like, I don't want to say responsible, but he's partially responsible for a lot of, NWA, a lot of the music that we grew up on. He's partially responsible for creating it. So I got to go with Dre.
Best rapper today is who?
Kendrick Lamar.
Okay. It's not Mekka Don? Come on,
No.
man. Come on, bro.
Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something about that real quick, if you don't mind. So,
Go
as
for it.
artists, and you guys may be like this in your professions as well. There are certain people that you're like actually jealous of, right? You're like, how are you that good at what you do? I think I'm good. So it's not that I'm like insecure about my skills, but like, how are you that good? Kendrick, Andre 3000, Tupac, somebody mentioned Tupac. He's my favorite of all time. I'm like, how are you that good? Like, I'm actually jealous in the fun, not really, but you know what I mean. But Kendrick is one of those, like just the abilities that he has to kind of change his voice and kind of create stories and use of language vividly and different types of music within the same song, and just he's a real artist. It's exceptional.
Alex.
What is your favorite memory as a player? Game or off the field? Anything.
Favorite memory. So, all right, well, I'll kind of tell like maybe like a welcome to the Buckeyes kind of moment.
Okay.
There was one time I walked into the weight room. This was like maybe the first week or two that I was on campus. I walked into the weight room, and the way the weight room was set up, Coach Kennedy had his office like inside the weight room, and there was a big like glass window, so you could see into his office. And when I walk in, out the corner of my eye, I see something that looks like the Hulk in his office, but they're not facing me, so I can only see their back. So I turn and I'm like, who in the bleep 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 is that? This person looks like they're not a real human being. So I'm like, literally, I remember this vividly. This is 20 something years ago. I remember this vividly. So I'm like literally staring, like I need this person to turn around because I have to see who is this person. And they finally turn around, and it was Eddie George. And I was like, oh my God, this guy. I mean, I always knew Eddie was big, but this guy looked, and I was like, oh, okay. And obviously he was in the NFL at that time, just a couple years removed. But I said, oh my God, like that was the moment that this really became real to me, where I was, like the greats that I was gonna be amongst and be seeing, and then also, I'm 6 feet 180, and I'm like, these are the type of guy, these are the type of players I'm going to be going up against in practice. Then LaCharles Bentley walks in, and Cortland Bullard, and these guys I'm like, oh my God, what did I just sign up for? This is crazy. So that was one of the moments that was just like, wow, like welcome to the Buckeyes. And yeah, it was really cool. I think one of the things that was cool for us, I mean, I wasn't playing, so it wasn't like I had any great moments on the field, but one of the things that was really cool was all the guys that would come back. Ty Howard, I remember him being there, and just all the guys that were in the league that would come back. And these are guys that I grew up watching as a kid, and next thing you know, I'm like literally part of the same fraternity as them. That was a real big shock for me. And especially because, last thing real quick, sorry, because I only played football 1 year in high school, I never had any aspirations or thoughts that I was going to be playing football at Ohio State. It wasn't even part of anything that I was thinking, right? So to go from a huge fan that watched every single game, to all of a sudden, wow, you're now part of this thing. That was a big one. That was a big shock for me.
Awesome.
Yeah. Great question from Ryan Day's Championship Peer. $10 super chat with the question: With the previous failures Ryan Day has gone through, we see the TV version of Ryan Day and what we as fans perceive as a difference. What is the difference in him that makes you confident, Mecca? Great question.
So the interesting thing about Ryan Day's career is that before he won last year, and obviously, the losses to the team up north, there are a couple bounces here and there that go a couple different ways, and we're talking about Ryan Day completely differently.
Yep.
We make that kick against Georgia, we go win on national title. We're not losing to TCU. I think it's TCU.
Yep.
We're not. You know what I mean? And so I think that one of the things that makes Ryan so different to me from a lot of people is, well, first of all, I think he's very confident now. I think he got that. He knows he still has to beat the team up north, but I think that he's won so many big games now, and he's understands that heartache. I think in a lot of ways that he went through, I think has grinded him a little differently, right? He even how hard he is on himself now is probably different than it was before. I know he's not asleep right now. He's thinking about that game against the team up north more than he's ever thought about it probably in his life, But one of the things that I always thought was special about Ryan, and this is not exactly a direct answer, but something that I think is so special about him is that he is extremely competitive, and he demands excellence from his players. He grinds them, right? But at the same time, he's been able to be a guy that they all love and respect, right? And he's built a culture that people they know that demands excellence, but that they know that there's love there, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
And one of the things that was different between him and Urban, and it's just different styles, is that wasn't really true for Urban. Like, everyone knew what the standard was with Urban, but there are players that didn't like Urban, right? Even some of his best players, they didn't really necessarily like him. They didn't really necessarily have a relationship with him. But it was more transactional. It was like, look, you come here, I'm going to get the best out of you. We're going to win, and you're going to go on to the league. And that's all I really owe you. That's kind of how Urban's philosophy was, which is fine, and it worked well. But Ryan has that, but he also has that kind of compassion part that makes the program, that makes you want to be a part of it, that makes it feel familial, right? Like, you really feel like it's your family. You really feel like these are your brothers. You really feel like you're building something that's different. So I think that he, winning the national title got a monkey off of his back. I think it's made him a little looser in terms of just like, he can breathe a little bit. But I think it's also, it's like, there's real competitors. Once you get that taste of victory, the true competitors, that's not enough, right? It's not they don't go like, okay, now I can sleep. In fact, sometimes for the real true competitors, that makes you it makes you even hungrier. And when I see Ryan now, I look at somebody who is hungry, because the thing is Ryan is actually putting himself in position to go down, not as just one of the best Ohio State coaches of all time, obviously, which he already is, but as one of the goats of college football. He has the ability to really build a dynasty here, and I think he smells blood. And I think that's the difference right now. I think he really understands what this thing can be, and so I love watching it. I got to go to practice and just watch him. He's super intense. He doesn't let anything slide. Somebody had mentioned earlier that I think when Bo Jackson fumbled the ball out of bounds, like him and Locke were in him. I mean, like, they don't care. We're up 70. It doesn't matter. Everything matters, and so I think he smells blood, and I think that's probably the biggest difference right now.
You know what that reminded me a lot of when they were yelling at Bo Jackson?
Mhm.
Reminded me a lot of Nick Saban in a game where they were up like 50 some points and he was
Yes.
shouting nickel, and
Yes.
to call the timeout with like
Yeah.
under 30 seconds to go because
Yes.
you demand that perfection.
Because
So
everything matters, and that's the thing
everything.
that you start to realize when you're Ryan. You start to realize the difference between winning and losing literally can be the timeout in the wrong time, a false start at the wrong time. It could be it's really truly a game of inches, and a game of just small things that can change the outcome of a game. And he's dealt with that heartache even against the team up north almost all of those games we're one play away. If Kyle McCord doesn't get hit on that and Marvin catches that, we probably win that game, believe it or not, right? So there's always these so I think that he's not relenting, but he's still doing it in a way where the players are buying in. And that's the balance that I think is almost impossible to find. Dabo's kind of done it a little bit, even though I don't like him. But it's really hard to find that balance. Yeah.
Well, Ryan Day apparently does, from what I've heard. So
Yeah.
But yeah, I totally agree with that. And I had a lot. I said it on our live show yesterday that I've had a lot of opposing fan base friends of mine when they saw him before the Texas game. They said, "Boy, he's got a different look to him." And I've said it too. I said, "Boy, if he just gets one win against that team up north,
oh yeah,
he might not lose to them again for a while." So just got to get that one.
He's got to get it, and he knows he has to get it. And I think that he smells blood in the water as it relates to that team up north. And just I think he doesn't. I think he truly doesn't believe they're on our level, right? But he knows he has to prove that. But I think he smells it nationally. Like I said, I think he knows what we're doing at this program right now is special. What we're building here is a machine, and if he can keep that going, this could be one of the dynasties that people talk about, like they talked about Miami or Oklahoma back in the day or whatever. So, I'm really looking forward to it.
Chris,
Same.
Just a side note on Ryan Day before I ask my next question. You guys realize that if he wins 3 more games in a row here, he actually becomes the winningest coach in college football history by winning percentage.
Really?
It's crazy.
He will surpass Newt Rockne at that point by winning percentage.
Woo!
It's crazy.
It had to be Notre Dame. You were gonna throw some shade at Chris.
And here's the thing too, real quick on that, just real quick, is that if you talk to other fan bases that are not necessarily in the Big Ten, or even if they are in the Big Ten, they think we're nuts for how we've treated, so to speak, Ryan Day, right? They don't get it, obviously. So whatever, it is what it is. But they think we're nuts. They're like, do you guys understand? Look at the programs around the country that were once powerhouses and what they've gone through. The Florida States. Even look what's going to happen in Alabama right now, Miami, Nebraska. These were, people don't know. Some of these, if you're just new to college football, you might think this is the way it's always been. It's no. These are programs that year after year you had to, worry about. And for us to be this steady, yes, we got to beat the team up north. I get it. But for us to be this steady for this long and always in the mix, I mean, that's there's got to be some credit that's given there. But he does have to beat the team up north at the end of the day. I mean, it is what it is. There's no way around that. So, But once he does it, I think that monkey is off his back, at least for the short period until the next game that we play them. But it is I think we're gonna beat them this year. I really do. I think he's got it figured out.
Can we also mention that Sharon Less now has the same amount of losses as Ryan Day in their careers as head coaches?
But it took a season and a couple of games, and it took another.
He's 10-6, isn't he?
7 years.
Yeah, 9-6, 10-6, something like that.
He's 10. He's 10-6. He's 9-6 in the last 15. He did have that a win when Harbaugh was unable to attend the game. But so I just looked that up today, actually. Chris, go ahead with your question.
Okay, I'm gonna go back. You were just talking about Ohio State. You were talking about the family. How has your family, your faith, your Ohio community influenced you in your journey and in your decisions?
Yeah. So after I graduated from Ohio State, 2 weeks later, I moved to New York. And I lived in New York for almost 20 years until I recently moved back to Ohio. And one of the things that I had realized when I got to New York was, obviously it's culture shock in some ways and a lot different.
I've had the same move, so I understand.
Okay. Yeah. And so, but one of the things that I realized was some of the values, like just family values, social values, how we treat people, how we communicate with people. It was different. And in a lot of ways, it actually made me stand out. Sometimes in ways where people are like, this dude is weird. Why is he always smiling? Why is he always happy? Right. So I got some of that too, but also just, we communicate differently. We treat people differently. And that's been a huge actual kind of value in terms of kind of me being able to meet people, create
Mhm.
relationships, kind of navigate those type of waters. I think that's been amazing. And then also just my faith and you know just kind of the support of my family, um, the close family and extended family has been also something that's very important. As you guys know, when you're building something, it's there's not a lot of support there at the beginning. Even people that you're close with, your friends, sometimes they won't listen, they won't subscribe, they won't, you know what I mean? And so um having the support of your family, having faith, I think is one of the things that's so important, and being able to kind of just decide that you're going to continue on, excuse me. And that was also in some ways, and I talk about this in the documentary as well. And Lathan talks about it, and Denzel talks about it, just how important that was to the team. It was one of the things that I had in common with this team a lot last year. Just how they approached, family, how they approached faith, how they use that to kind of as fuel. I remember when people were talking on social media, they're like, that was a weakness. They're like, oh, these guys, this is a weakness. Our team is weak. They're like all talking about God and all that stuff all the time. And to me, I'm not saying you have to agree with whatever their faith is or believe in the same thing, but the idea that that's a weakness to me always was like, that's a very silly thing for people to say. So I think it's grounded me and grounded us and people like us, right? In ways that we probably don't even realize, and why, people always tell me, oh, I always love people from Ohio. And it's kind of like, well, yeah, we were kind of raised a certain way. So definitely been something that I've taken with me all across the world, and something that I'm not ashamed of.
Mecca, we want to be cognizant of your time, my friend. We know you're a family man. It's getting kind of late, so I'll have us all wrap it up with one final question each here.
Sure.
You just brought up faith. I'm a man of faith, ordained minister, and love what I watch and see from Ohio State. It really speaks to me. As a man as successful as you are, and have worked in some industries that don't exactly uh, maybe have the light of God shining on them, maybe they
Mhm.
do more. Speak to your faith and what it was like being different as a man of faith in the industries where people think that there is people without faith in them.
Yeah, that's a really good question. Um, one of the my so I tell people this all the time, and I'm not shy about saying it. Like, I pretty much hate the entertainment industry and the music industry, but I love music and I love entertaining. So it's always been a very, very tough thing for me to navigate as I, was, especially when I was first getting started and just getting my feet wet and moving into New York. And I have stories for days, right? Of things that, yeah, if you think it happened, it probably happened, and I was
Hmm.
there. I threw parties in New York with celebrities for 5 years, you know. So I saw a lot. I lived with a New York Giant in New York when they won the Super Bowl. So we were everywhere, and so I got to, it was good in some ways. Obviously, I got to meet a lot of people, and it's kind of how I developed the brand and all that type of stuff. But I also saw a lot of stuff that I just did not agree with, and so you have to remove yourself from situations sometimes. Maybe there's a certain party or a certain event or a certain thing that you're invited to, and you say, yeah, it might be good for one thing, but what I might see here or what I might be exposed to here doesn't really align with my values or my beliefs. Or you might be somewhere, you might already be there, and then you see something or hear something or whatever, and you kind of have to make a decision. So that's real, and I think people know that it's real, but I'm telling you from firsthand experience that's very real. So that's always been a challenge for me. And but honestly, if I'm being honest, if it extends into other parts of my life too that are not really industry related, right? Just the values that people have, and I'm not judging anybody. I'm not God, but you constantly have to make decisions of who you want to be around, and how does that affect you? How does that affect your mental space? How does that affect your brand, your reputation? These are things I teach my kid, my nephews, like about who you're around and how, birds of a feather, and people will judge you. You may not have done it, but you were there, and all those different types of things. Those things definitely factor in. So those are balancing acts, and they never ever go away, right? And so it's also like in music, it's very difficult because, for example, like if we start to, and this is the thing I struggle with, if I start to like think about, the character of, for example, of people who are creating music, some of our music legends or our actors or whatever, and if I start to like really think about that as it relates to their art, they're not going to be a lot of people that we're going to like. So I've had to figure out ways, how do I separate those things, while not also judging, so that's a great question, and it's a really hard thing to do. But I think at the end of the day, for me, I always remember, why am I doing this? And I think that's why purpose matters so much. um, Me having a purpose has been the thing that has always kept me grounded and kept me going. And so anytime I would get in a situation, I would have to remind myself why I was doing this, and then that would always kind of make sure I was doing the right thing. So great question.
Alex, final question, man.
So you mentioned how you get to talk to some recruits and stuff like that. Obviously, I know you're a big presence on Twitter, so you are no stranger to Buckeye Twitter. I am a very guilty party of overreactions at times. But a lot of people are panicking about this recruiting class right now. People I've talked to said, well, this recruiting class isn't as talented as ones in the past, and that's why Ohio State maybe isn't going for a lot of the guys they usually would go for. What are
Yeah.
your thoughts on that? What could you say to Buckeye Nation to calm them down a little bit, saying, "Hey, we're still top 10 class, you
Yeah.
know." And what do you think we can look forward to with recruiting going in the future?
So I'll say this, and let me preface by this. One of the things that I've promised myself as a Buckeye fan to not do is to go into the weeds when it comes to recruiting. Like, I just promised myself I won't do it. I understand why people do it, and I'm not judging anybody that does. But for me, for my own sanity, I've tried not to do that, especially because there's so many moving parts, right? And there are different periods of time, and there's portals and guys committing and decommitting and transferring in, and it's just like you can drive yourself nuts doing it, and it feels a little crazy to me to do that sometimes. So that being said, I do have an eye on it, right, and much more and less about kind of which individual guys we're getting at positions. Like, if we get a great guy, yes, I'll celebrate on Twitter, but like, and more about kind of the process. How are we thinking about it? How are we going about it? Like, those are the things I kind of pay a little bit more attention to. And I think that this is a very unique time in recruiting. For example, if you're a high school athlete right now and you're like a 2-star, 3-star, it is not as easy to get offers as it once was. And so there are so many different considerations that you have to think about. You have to think about, transfer portal. You have to think about money, right? You have to think about roster construction. You got to think about, who's coming in and who's going out, who's going to the draft. What do we have to replace? So many different things that you have to think about. And so I know, and again, I haven't stayed all the way up to date with where we are and all that type of stuff, but I know that people are panicking a little bit. But one of the things that I'll say is that one of the things that we have consistently gotten right for like a long time is recruiting, right? So I believe in, I know that Ryan Day specifically, his emphasis, yes, development matters and it matters, but you got to get great players, right? You got to get great players. So I think Ryan knows that, and I know, and even with conversations I've had with Ross and conversations I've heard about, I know they know that. So I trust that there's going to be a crazy emphasis on that. I think that just right now it's kind of a little bit of a murky time. There's even some legal stuff like you got to figure out and make sure. And Ohio State is pretty conservative when it comes to some of that stuff, and I know that annoys people, but um, I have all the faith in the world that we're going to figure it out. And the beautiful thing about it is that we actually have the resources to figure it out. We have we have the program to figure it out. It's not like we're some remote program that got lucky and got hot for a second. That's not who we are. So this is something that we have figured out and we will figure it out. So yeah, I mean, but I think we keep the pressure on. That's what we do as fans, right? That's what we do as the Buckeye community. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think that comes with the job, that comes with the territory. And sometimes our voices being loud about an issue, it creates enough murmurs in the air that it gets into the program, and then people start to say, okay, wait, hold on, let's make sure we're evaluating this thing correctly. So I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But I do think that we should have a trust in what we've done so far, and and believe in what we're bringing in and what we've brought in, and then also the development, which also matters as well. And then Ryan Day's track record, I mean, has been amazing. Even the transfers, you know, like come on, man. Like we both,
Josh Simmons.
yeah,
That was a
come
gem.
on, come on, man. So I think we got to give it a little bit of patience, and but I trust that we'll figure it out.
Chris, final question, man.
Yeah, it's going to be kind of a deep one. I'm not going to lie, kind of deep
Okay.
one. Haven't worked been an athlete, haven't been at Ohio State, haven't worked as an attorney, worked in entertainment. What does success mean to Mekka Don specifically, and what advice would you maybe give young people, specifically young athletes that are coming out or maybe feeling stuck right now?
That's I'm so happy that we're ending on this question, because that, even in the book, and not to shout out my book again, but that's one of the things, one of the plays. It's 5 plays in the book, and I think play number 2 or 3 is define success for yourself. Number 2, and I had a hard time with that when I was younger, and still do to a certain degree, but not as much, because I think that society kind of has their definitions of what success is, and that's what we kind of buy into, right? So,
Mhm.
and we a lot of times adopt whatever society thinks, and that's not even just on success. That's on, like, whether to get married or not, whether to have kids or not, where to live, like everything, where we buy, what we eat, right? It's all influenced a lot of times by society. So I think one of my main pieces of advice is to take a step back and define what it means for you. For me, I define success as being able to continue to have meaningful relationships with people, inspire people who feel like I am someone that can inspire them. When people leave a conversation with me or leave an interaction with me, that they feel like that was a positive experience. I think because at the end of the day, for me, I think all we're doing really is just sharing energy, right? And so for me, I think that I feel a responsibility to share positive energy, feelings, emotion, um, being honest, right? And but then also using my experiences and kind of giving back, so to speak, or at least speaking to the next generation. So I talk to a lot of young guys. I talk to players on the team, high school kids. I'm in schools, elementary, 2nd and 7. I'm a big 2nd and 7 guy. I and I think that our responsibility really is to really kind of give back. You learn and then you teach, right? And so for me, that success has never been tied to a number, how much money. It's never been tied to winning a specific award or being, and it's never been tied to that. And I know for some people it's that doesn't make sense to them, because that's kind of how society measures success. But for me, it's never been that. So I feel like just being the best person that I can be, um, being a valuable person in society at the end of the day, knowing that this can end at any time, and knowing being and not then lastly, excuse me, is obviously being a great husband and father, right, and a leader for people who are following me, or people who are believe in me. I think that's what success ultimately is for me. And so I would say, um, advice would literally be that, is take a step back and realize what is it that you're doing, what's your purpose for what it is that you're doing. And I think that because I wasn't clear on that when I first started. Like, I love music, but I didn't really know exactly what I was doing. And I think once I kind of defined that for myself, things became a lot easier. And then also, it's baby steps, right? um you know Celebrating small wins, right? Not putting the weight of the ultimate. Let's say you're a high school athlete and you want to play in the NFL. Well, you can't go to the NFL next year. So, how was practice today? Did you do your best at practice today? Like that, evaluate yourself from that perspective. Baby steps, small wins, small goals, crawl before you walk. and then ultimately just make sure that you understand your why, because your why, if you don't have the right why, it's almost impossible to get anywhere and stay anywhere. And that's the same thing with shortcuts. I always tell people that you take a shortcut, you might get there, but you're not going to stay there very long because you don't know how to really you don't know what it really takes to stay there. And so so that's what I would say. I would say, like, just, just believe in your own power, and just be honest with yourself, but also don't be too hard on yourself, because you're probably a lot better than you think.
Oh, real quick, $2 super chat. Mekka, I love that hat. Where'd you get it?
OSU Team Shop. So I got this last year. They have one at St. John's Arena, or St. John's, Schottenstein Center. So I'm sure they sell them. They probably sell them online too, but OSU Team Shop.
Buckeye Corner, I think, has it too.
Yeah, GoBuckeyes.com probably has it.
All right, it's time to give some stuff away. We got a juice wristband from Mekka. We've got a koozie from Billy Bob's Backyard Barbecue. And we've got a pennant from the Ohio State store and lots more there with Chris Works. All three of these are going to be given away. First person, get ready in the chat, Chris. First person who can tell us, Mekka mentioned who his all-time favorite rapper was. First person who can tell us who that rapper was will receive the free swag today, courtesy of Mekka, Billy Bob's Backyard Barbecue, and the Ohio State store, and lots more.
I know.
I know you know. That's why you're going to be determining it, and who was paying attention.
Who's got the juice? Who's got the juice
Aaron.
in the chat?
Aaron! It was Tupac.
He got it. He got it.
California.
You tricked him with that Snoop Dre question.
He did.
Yeah, indeed.
You should have hit him with Tupac or Biggie.
True.
Well, I'm a little Biggie's a little close to me, It's a Aaron, do us a big favor. Email me at theohiopodcast@gmail.com. I think I've got your address, but just in case I don't, Aaron, email me your mailing address, and I will get these in the mail to you this week, my friend. Congratulations, Aaron, on being the first to remember that Tupac
Good taste.
was Mekka's all-time favorite rapper. Although, as Ryan Day points out, Biggie Pods. Biggie Pods is the man. This has been so much fun, everybody. Mekka, thank you so much for taking the time out of your Sunday evening for joining us. Please plug your book one more time where they can find this thing, especially if they would love to get it autographed like you did for me and receive the juice wristbands.
Absolutely. So buckle up, the playbook, 5 winning plays for go-getters. And again, Gene Smith is the one who did the forward for my book. I should have mentioned that too, which is pretty cool. You can get that on Amazon, or if you want to get it autographed and with 2 free juice wristbands for a limited time, you can get it on my website, which is shop.mekkadonmusic.com. And definitely check out the documentary, Buckle Up, the Soundtrack of Champions. That's on my YouTube, youtube.com/Mekka Don Music. Like I said, Lathan Ransom is in there, Denzel Burke, Urban Meyer, Chris Carter, Shelly Meyer. I mean, Buckeye lore is in there. So go and check that out. It's really amazing too. And I appreciate your guys' time. Thank you.
Aaron says he never wins anything. Well, you did tonight, buddy. You did tonight. So congratulations, man. All right, guys. Tomorrow night, Chris will be doing the call-in show tomorrow night, 8 p.m. tomorrow night. Buckeye Lounge, 8 p.m. Tuesday night. The Ohio State preview, 8 o'clock Wednesday night. We have a guest coming on for that. Thursday night will be the Buckeye Ladies at 8 p.m. Eastern. All of it at 8 o'clock. 10 a.m. in the morning Saturday will be the call-in show with yours truly. And then 7:30 for the Game Watch here on the OHIO podcast. All of those are the live shows. We'll have many, many more videos for all of you. Go check out the website, theohiopodcast.com, for your articles, links, etc. Again, thank you so much, Mekka. Thank you, Alex and Chris, for joining us here tonight for the home team. As always, be kind to one another. I owe someone's OH. Sing Carmen, Ohio with all your heart. Till next time, you all know what to do. OH!
I owe.
Go Bucks.